Our first interactions weren't like the notes of instruments that would go well in a symphony. No, more like the clinking of glasses, afraid they might crack but excited. Age 3, peeking out from behind mom's curtains to whisper hi. Maybe we waved, and so the bud peeked out and the flower blossomed, and all was merry until the sharp spring wind swept a grain of pollen away. I miss that grain. I miss playing the doctor set with them when we were 3, miss their hesitance in going back home at the end of the day, miss their annoyance when mealtime coincided with playtime. They'd always walk into school a couple of minutes after I did, would ruffle my hair and manage to make me return that enthusiasm-filled high five. I miss standing in the middle of the street and calling out to them to come downstairs and play. We didn't have phones back then, and we didn't need them. My pollen grain was always close enough to hear me directly. Until the wind swept it away and I whispered, I hope your hostel room is painted with a shade of blue that makes you happy. I hope the pillows absorb your tears well. I hope the papers where you bleed out your pain bring you comfort. I know you keep my keychain with you, and I hope you know that keys to certain parts of me will always find home between your fingers. With another grain of pollen, I mourned the moving away of the first. We'd share the random questions floating about in our heads in the middle of the night, cycle to the little shop down our lane in the evenings, 1 bhel puri for him and a packet of Lays for me. I've often had an unexplained desire to eat bhel puri after this grain of pollen was swept away too. He was the warmth that reminded you that you were alive. He knew all my hiding places and I knew all of his. No one has ever been able to find us as quickly in a game of hide and seek since then. So he whispers in a voice coarser than I remember. This is where I'll come every time I miss home. Keep my hiding places safe for me. I remember telling a third grain of pollen an anecdote from holy celebrations a couple of years ago. One covering himself in green and claiming to be Hulk, the other in pink, Christian, a variant of Pink Panther, and me standing in the hot afternoon sun to dry off the bucket load of water that had been poured over me, giggling uncontrollably. These 2 grains that had filled my childhood with hues of laughter and growth were gone before the third had to leave. And when she did too, I wondered how I could paint all my memories of her into a single painting. What going away present could possibly articulate how terribly I was going to miss her? She did know, of course. She felt it too. This is the part where my smile would turn upside down, my eyebrows would meet in a huddle of concern, and I would say, you do, right? But there's no room for that. There's going to be too many miles between us as it is. Perhaps the friendship bracelets on our wrists will turn into the wind at our backs. Perhaps every library we enter will remind us of the memories of long conversations on the blue-cushioned chairs of our library. Perhaps the smell of our favorite shampoo will turn into a comfy blanket on a cold night. Perhaps the raindrops on those cold nights will smell like home. Home. These roads, parks, and malls sometimes feel like an empty shell without those that I shared them with. So instead, I bleed out a collection of words and call them home. We walk different lands, but these pin codes are etched in some hearts, blended into some voices, rest as dainty pendants on some collarbones, and perhaps these pin codes will remember us too. Maybe the soil of this land will always be able to distinguish between our tears, and the flowers will always remember our collective laughter. Maybe our memories pop into their minds, a smile plays across their lips, a teardrop gently makes its way down their cheek, and they whisper, I miss you.